Where is your freedom being curtailed?
Well, your freedom is being curtailed by you being forced to wear a mask. And, we have a lockdown now, which is limiting other freedoms, and we've got a massive lockdown of the economy, or the economy's been ruined. Hundreds, or actually 3 million jobs lost, and the NHS waiting list has gone up to 10 million. So our rights and freedoms have been massively curtailed. I think what we've got now, you see, is a slow cooking, rather like frogs. If you put a frog in hot water, then the frog jumps straight out. But what we have now is a slow cooking, curtailment of freedoms, and people aren't realising it. So radio programmes like yourselves, of course, kind of act as if it's kind of normal. But if you had been away for, say, 6 months and came to England now, you would think it had been taken over by aliens or something. It's so completely absurd.
Well, we have a pandemic going around, of course. That's the.
Well, we don't. We don't have a pandemic.
Okay.
It's completely untrue. Right. What we have, if anything, is a occasional flu or
Piers,
cold.
You're an intelligent. You're an astrophysicist.
Don't happen.
Piers, you're an intelligent man, normal. Piers. You're a bright guy. I don't dispute that. You're a heck of a nice one as well. What I'm confused about. What's the pandemic then? Where's this pandemic that you say it doesn't exist?
Yeah, there's no pandemic, no.
So there's no pandemic. A lot of people died. 100,000 a day in America at the moment.
Let me answer
40-odd thousand here.
Let me answer the question.
Go on.
There's no pandemic because there's no extra deaths other than would happen or have happened in normal years. So there's no pandemic. And furthermore, this alleged coronavirus or the symptoms of coronavirus are not anything of a high consequence. It was deemed to be not a high consequence infectious disease.
Unless you're dead, of course.
March the 19th. So it's not, even under their own terms, i.e. the WHO terms, something which is dangerous. And the numbers of it would show it's not a pandemic.
All right, Piers, stay there for 1 second. Ria Lina, good afternoon to you. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon.
You're a virologist and a comedian as well. There's an interesting combination in the Venn diagram there. However, there's a lot to get through. There is no pandemic. Let's just respond to that to start with.
I don't know. I almost don't know how to respond to that, especially when he's using facts and figures dating all the way back to March 19th. A lot has happened since March 19th, including a lot of deaths and a lot of people who are actually still struggling with the after effects. And we're going to be suffering from the after effects of this disease for a long time to come. So I think it's almost insulting to everybody that suffered or lost someone to brush it away as a slight flu. Even now, papers are coming out as we're discovering more and more of the extrapulmonary effects of this particular virus. For example, a lot of young people, the first sign that they're infected isn't even a cough, it's a stroke because of the effects that it has on thickening up the blood. There's a lot of other things that we've seen. You've heard of COVID toes. Of course, you've heard of some of the symptoms being you lose your sense of taste. We've seen it affecting the brain. We've seen people who've lost their ability to concentrate. We have chronic fatigue, and a lot of people who have recovered, and it looks like they've overcome the infection and yet are still suffering with the after effects of it. So I think that to say that this is not a pandemic when we're not just going to see the effects of it now, but we're going to see it for months, if not years to come, is naive.
Piers, do you want to revise your "this is not a pandemic" line?
No, of course not. There's been no extra deaths compared with any other year. We've had much more serious things.
That's simply not true, is it? We know there have been excess deaths.
That is actually true. If you look at the facts, there's been no extra deaths compared with previous years. And previous years, we're talking about winter and spring type of things. Obviously, people get ill all the time, and 1,700 people die every day in Britain. And I'm saying that there's been no pandemic in the sense of numbers. In the sense of something serious going on or not, the description of COVID symptoms is so huge that, of course, it can include anybody. And a lot of people are being labelled having died from COVID when they have not. And I know of specific cases where people... an old man broke his leg and he was labelled as dying from COVID, and the.
I mean, there's a lot of those anecdotes, but as I understand it, at the moment we have 65,000 excess deaths, Piers Corbyn, in this country. So are you disputing those ONS figures?
Well, I would, because every day you look at these figures, they change them, because we've had NHS whistleblowers.
Well, they change because they're going up, yes.
NHS whistleblowers have been pointing out that they've been made to, sometimes they repeat detection of the virus.
What you're putting forward here, Piers, is that there's a conspiracy.
You're not listening. There's multiple claims of the same people having COVID, so therefore the figures are multiplied. And people who've had something entirely else, especially old people, and the average age of people supposedly having COVID is about 80. People who have got other things are being labelled COVID. As a propaganda machine to justify a second lockdown and taking away of more.
Why? I don't know why they want to take away our freedoms.
Taken away. Just look around in the street and think.
All right. No, things have changed. There's no doubt. Ria, I mean, you're not opposed to wearing a face mask. You're a virologist. This is your area.
I am not opposed to wearing a face mask, especially in the very small circumstances that they're going to require us to. They're asking us to wear them in shops and supermarkets, and that is it at the moment, which perhaps I think some of us wear it more often than that. We wear it when we're out and about. We wear it when we're in other small confined spaces, and with conscientious good reason. I think that I don't fully understand this argument of it takes away your freedom. Your freedom to do what? To infect other people? That was never a freedom that we enjoyed before this particular virus arose. There is no freedom that we enjoyed before that we no longer can enjoy by wearing a face mask.
Piers, can you just respond to that? I mean, it is the freedom to what? Infect other people? You don't want to. You're a nice bloke. You don't want to infect people, Piers, do you?
No, I'm not affecting anybody. If you wear a face mask, you're keeping your own toxins and infecting yourself. And if you're stupid enough to run with a face mask, then you might die, as some person did quite recently.
Okay, well, can I just very quickly put that back to Ria from a scientific perspective? Are you aware, Ria, of any face mask deaths that you might get from infecting yourself?
Okay, first of all, we are not asking people to wear face masks that are so tightly woven that they contain the toxins right up against your face. That's actually almost impossible. If you think about the sizes of even a carbon dioxide molecule compared to a virus, it is on a scale so much smaller that there isn't a chance that that's going to gather inside your mask. We are asking people to wear cloth masks or surgical masks when they're out and about. Some people, we're asking them to allow the storage, the sources of respiratory masks, the sort of N95s, the FFP2s that you've heard about, to be preserved for people that work in the medical field. So in terms of what we're asking you to wear, which is ideally a tri-layer cloth mask or a surgical mask, no, you cannot suffer from wearing that for 10 to 20 minutes inside a shop. Piers, none of those things are going to happen.
Piers, just a final point to you, Piers, are you definitely not going to wear one?
No, I'm not going to wear a mask at all. And I would
even if you thought it would stop people catching something.
Just listen.
I'm
bother to look
chiming
at a fence, look at a fence and imagine that fence being used to stop flies flying through. It's complete madness. It won't do. A virus, if in the air, will go through all these cloth masks anyway, and it will offer no protection. If you put it over your mouth, it limits your power to breathe, which reduces the amount of oxygen.
Well, I just got on a train. It didn't reduce my power to breathe. I was able to breathe. And Ria, let me put a final point to you as well. Piers just said there that it literally won't do anything.
Well, okay, let's look at the study from the Royal Society where they found that if the entire population wore masks that were only 75% effective, we think we could reduce the R rate from 4 to 1. There was another study that looked at deaths across 198 countries. They found that nations that favor mask wearing had a lower death rate. There was published in the PNAS, a scientific research study that showed that mask wearing prevented 78,000 infections in Italy between April 6th and May 9th, and 66,000 infections in New York City between April 17th and May 9th. There was a study published by the CDC of a couple of hairstylists in Missouri who were both infected. Nobody knows why they went to work, but they went to work. There was a full mask policy in that hairdressers. They serviced between them 139 clients, and of the 67 clients that agreed to be tested, 0 of them had contracted COVID from their hairdresser.